We all know the finale of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, but I ask myself the question, what if the course of events changed? Surely then the plot of the play would have taken a different turn. There may be several options for the development of events. If Romeo and Juliet could escape, they would probably find a place where they could start a new life. They would be able to live there without fear of being misunderstood by their families who did not support the union. Finding a secluded place, they would be safe and able to fully enjoy their love for each other. If the relatives of Romeo and Juliet would come to an agreement and accept their marriage, then the lovers could live together without hiding their love. This, of course, would require patience on all sides and a willingness to make concessions. If Romeo and Juliet could not legitimize the union, then they could keep their love affair a secret. They would exchange letters or meet in secluded places. It would be dangerous, but then the chance to save your love would increase. In any case, the situation of Romeo and Juliet is complicated and confusing because of the enmity between their families. But if they had lived longer, they would have been able to experience more joy with each other, and, perhaps, over time, relations between the Montague and Capulet clans would have improved. What if Romeo and Juliet hadn't met? If they hadn't met, they probably would have continued to live separately from each other, and the situation with their families would have developed differently. Without the meeting of Romeo and Juliet, there might not have been a conflict between the Montagues and the Capulets, and everyone could have lived in peace. It is obvious that without the love of Romeo and Juliet, the Italian city of Verona would not have witnessed such tragic events as the death of Tybalt, violent duels, and ultimately, the death of the lovers themselves. Perhaps other scenarios would have happened in the life of Romeo and Juliet, and a romantic story such as we know would not have happened. What if Juliet hadn't fallen in love with Romeo? If she had fallen in love with another guy, the plot of the Shakespearean story would have changed. Perhaps the fate of two families, the Montagues and the Capulets, would not have intertwined in such a tragic story. If Juliet had fallen in love with another person, perhaps she and her new lover together would have tried to overcome the obstacles that stood in the way of their relationship. Maybe they would have found a peaceful solution and persuaded their families to accept their love. Perhaps Juliet's new lover would be part of another family that would not conflict with Montague. If Romeo had fallen in love with another, and Juliet had fallen out of love, then the girl would have remained disappointed and confused. Juliet might have felt a sense of grief and utter despair over the loss of love. She might have felt anger, jealousy, would have suffered from unrequited feelings. Perhaps she would have lost interest in life and would have faced emotional and psychological difficulties. However, over time, Juliet could find a source of happiness in herself. She might have realized her own worth and found a new direction in life. Maybe she would have raised her self-esteem and would have begun to build a life not based on love for Romeo, but in accordance with her own goals and aspirations. What if only Romeo had died and Juliet had survived? The whole story could have been turned in a different direction. Instead of a tragic end, Juliet would have faced a huge grief but continued to live. Juliet would have felt the bitterness and emptiness left by the loss of Romeo. She could seek support from her family and friends, and perhaps they would help her overcome difficulties and gradually recover from the loss. Juliet could become a stronger and more independent woman, gain a new meaning in life, and focus on personal development and fulfill any achievements. She could become a symbol of strength and perseverance, ready to defend her beliefs. Perhaps Julieta would have spent her life devoting herself to the things she dreamed of or was interested in. Maybe she would have made an effort to end the enmity between the Montague and Capulet families. And what options do you have for the development of the plot? Leave your ideas in the comments.